When I was 8, I used to think my mom was the strongest person alive. She worked 2 jobs, packed my lunch with little notes, and still managed to smile when she tucked me in at night. My dad, at least the man I thought was my dad, was quiet but steady. He'd come home smelling like engine oil, hands rough, voice calm. Our home wasn't perfect, but it felt safe. Until one night when everything cracked open with a single sentence. It was late, close to midnight. I woke up to the sound of shouting. My mom's voice trembled, breaking between words, and then I heard it. "He's not your real son, David." I froze. My small hands clutched the blanket. I didn't understand what she meant, but those words burned themselves into my memory. My dad, no, David didn't say anything back. Just silence. Heavy, terrifying silence. The next morning, everything seemed normal. Pancakes, cartoons, the smell of coffee. My mom smiled like nothing happened. But David barely looked at me. That was the first time I felt distance, something invisible standing between us. As I grew up, the memory of that night followed me like a shadow. Sometimes I'd wonder if I had imagined it. But every time I looked at David's blue eyes and then at my own brown ones, something in me whispered that maybe she was right. Years passed. My mom avoided the topic and I never asked. Until one day years later, when she got sick. Really sick. And in one of those quiet moments in the hospital, she looked at me and said, "There's something you deserve to know." Her voice was weak, trembling. "I didn't lie about him not being your real dad," she whispered. "But that's not the secret you need to worry about." I stared at her, heart pounding. "What do you mean?" She sighed, eyes full of regret. "The DNA test came back years ago," she said softly. "But it wasn't for you." For a few seconds I couldn't even breathe. Her words hung in the air like smoke, heavy and unclear. "Not for me?" I asked slowly, unsure if I even wanted to know the answer. Mom looked at the window instead of at me. The hospital lights made her skin look pale, almost fragile. "David, he took a DNA test. But it wasn't to check if you were his son." My mind raced. "Then who?" She hesitated. "It was for your sister." My heart dropped. "I have a sister, Emily. 2 years younger, loud, funny, full of life." The idea that there was something to test about her didn't make sense. "What are you talking about, Mom?" I said, my voice rising without meaning to. Her lips trembled. "When you were little, I made mistakes. I thought I could fix them before they ruined everything. But the truth always finds its way back." She reached for my hand. "David found the old letters one night. Ones I thought I had burned. He suspected Emily wasn't his. The test proved it." I stared at her, trying to understand. "So Emily isn't his daughter?" Mom nodded, tears running down her face. "No, and that's why he changed. That's why he became distant. Not from you but from me." 1,000 memories flashed through my mind. The way he'd stopped hugging her, how dinners had turned silent, how his laughter slowly disappeared from the house. I thought it was stress, work, age. But it was betrayal. I swallowed hard. "Does Emily know?" Mom shook her head. "No. And she never should. You're the only one who can protect her from this truth." I looked at her in disbelief. "You're telling me all this now?" Her eyes filled with guilt. "Because I don't have much time left," she said softly. "And because the man who is Emily's father, he's trying to find her." The room suddenly felt smaller, like the walls were closing in. I could hear the steady beep of the heart monitor, but everything else faded. "Find her?" I repeated, my voice barely above a whisper. "What do you mean he's trying to find her?" Mom's eyes darted toward the door as if even the nurses might overhear. "He reached out last month," she said. "I didn't tell Emily. I didn't tell anyone. He said he knows she's his daughter now, and he wants to see her before it's too late." I felt the blood drain from my face. "Who is he?" Her lips quivered. "His name's Mark. He was someone I knew before David. Before everything. He didn't even know about Emily until recently." I stood there, hands on my head, pacing in disbelief. "So let me get this straight," I said, my voice trembling. "You cheated on Dad. Emily isn't his, and now this Mark guy suddenly wants to be a father?" Tears streamed down her cheeks. "I know I ruined everything," she said, almost begging. "But David forgave me in his own way. He just couldn't love me the same anymore." I turned to the window, watching rain blur the glass. "Forgave you?" "He left without a word, Mom. He moved out when I was 15. I thought you two just grew apart." She nodded slowly. "He did leave. But not because of me. Because he thought it was best for you and Emily to stay with me. He didn't want you to carry his bitterness." I could feel something boiling inside me, anger, confusion, heartbreak. Every truth she revealed felt like another piece of my childhood breaking apart. Finally, I turned back to her. What do you want me to do now? Her breathing grew heavier, her voice softer. I want you to find David, she whispered. He deserves to know the truth, that the DNA test wasn't the end of the story. And before I go, I need him to forgive me, one last time. Her words hit me harder than I expected. Forgive her? After all these years of lies? After letting me believe our family broke apart for no reason? I didn't even know what forgiveness looked like anymore. Mom, I said quietly, you're asking me to find the man you broke. She gave a faint smile, the kind that hides regret more than hope. You'll understand when you see him, she whispered. He's not the man you remember, but he still loves you. I wanted to argue, to walk out, but something in her eyes stopped me. It wasn't guilt anymore. It was finality. She was fading and she knew it. That night, I sat in my car outside the hospital for a long time, rain tapping against the windshield. My phone was open to Facebook, my fingers hovering over the search bar. I hadn't seen David in nearly 10 years. Last I heard, he'd moved somewhere up north, maybe Oregon, maybe Washington. Rumors carried through relatives who stopped keeping in touch. I typed his full name, David Miller. Hundreds of results. Too many. I scrolled until one photo caught my eye. A man standing beside a lake, gray hair, same steady eyes. My stomach twisted. It was him. I clicked his profile, private. Only one visible post, grateful for peace finally. Something in those words burned inside me. Peace. After abandoning us? I wanted to know what kind of peace he found while my mom carried guilt all these years. I sent a message before I could think twice. Hey, it's me. We need to talk. It's about Mom. No reply that night. Not the next day either. Then 2 mornings later I got a message back. Just one line. I was waiting for this day. I stared at that message for a long time. I was waiting for this day. What did he mean by that? My fingers hovered over the keyboard, but I didn't know how to reply. It had been years since we'd spoken. What do you even say to the man you once called Dad, who suddenly became a stranger? After a few minutes I just typed, "Can we meet?" His response came almost instantly. "Tomorrow. Same place we used to fish." That one line pulled me back into 1,000 memories. Early mornings by the lake, him teaching me how to bait a hook, the smell of coffee from his thermos. I hadn't been there since I was a kid. The next day I drove out to the lake. The road felt endless, lined with trees that looked older than the truth itself. When I arrived, he was already there, sitting on the same weathered bench near the water. Time had changed him. His hair was grayer, his shoulders a little heavier, but those same calm eyes were still there. He turned as I walked up, a faint smile tugging at his lips. "You've grown," he said softly. I didn't know whether to hug him or demand answers, so I just stood there. "Mom's sick," I said finally. He nodded slowly. "I know." That surprised me. "You know? I've been keeping an eye on both of you." Quietly. That made my chest tighten. "Why didn't you come back?" He sighed, staring out over the water. "Because sometimes love isn't about staying. It's about leaving before you hurt someone more." I wanted to be angry, but his voice carried so much sadness that I couldn't. After a long silence, he looked at me and said, "She told you, didn't she? About the test?" I nodded. "She said it wasn't for me. It was for Emily." He closed his eyes. "Then I guess you're finally ready to know the rest." The way he said it made my stomach turn. "The rest?" I repeated, watching him closely. He didn't look angry. Just tired, like someone who'd carried a secret for too long. He nodded slowly. "Yes, the test was for Emily. But that's not what broke me. What broke me was realizing that the truth went deeper than that." I frowned. "Deeper? How?" He looked down at his hands, rough and scarred from years of work. "Your mother wasn't the only one who hid something. I did too." My chest tightened. "What do you mean?" He took a deep breath. "When you were born, I already knew you weren't mine." The words hit like a punch. "What?" He looked up, eyes filled with a quiet sorrow. "I knew. I found out before you were even 2. I saw the results of that DNA test long before the one with Emily. I could barely process it. My ears were ringing. You're saying, I'm not your son either?" He shook his head slowly. "Not by blood. But that never mattered to me. You were my boy. From the moment I held you, that was enough." I took a step back, my mind spinning. "Then why didn't you say anything? Why pretend all these years?" His voice cracked. "Because I wanted to protect you. I thought if you grew up believing I was your father, maybe you'd never feel unwanted." But when Emily came along and I discovered the second lie, I realized I'd been protecting the wrong person. He looked out at the water again, voice almost a whisper. The man who's your biological father, he's not the same as Emily's. And he's not a stranger. My heartbeat quickened. Then who is he? He turned to me slowly, his eyes heavy with truth. Your uncle, he said. Your mother's brother. For a second I thought I'd misheard him. My uncle? I repeated, my voice cracking. That doesn't make any sense. David didn't look at me. His eyes stayed fixed on the water, calm on the outside but trembling just enough for me to notice. Your mother's older brother, James. He was around a lot when you were a baby. Always helping, always checking in. Too much, honestly. I didn't see it then, but later. I couldn't unsee it. The world tilted. My knees felt weak. That's insane, I said, shaking my head. Uncle James treated me like his own nephew. He babysat me. David interrupted softly. He was treating you like his own son. Those words cut through the air like glass. I stepped back, clutching my jacket. You're lying. I wish I was, David said quietly. I found out after you turned 2. Your mother didn't deny it when I confronted her. She said it was a mistake. One night, too much to drink, too much pain. But how do you forgive something like that? I could barely breathe. So you raised me, knowing I was his? He nodded. I couldn't let you grow up with that truth. I thought I could carry it for you. But when Emily's test came back, it broke something inside me. I realized I'd spent my whole life living with lies I didn't create. I sat down heavily on the bench beside him, the world spinning around me. So all these years my real father was. He cut in gently. He was the man who smiled at your birthday parties, who bought you gifts, who pretended to be just your uncle. He never said a word because your mother made him promise not to. My chest burned. Where is he now? David hesitated, then said, That's what I was waiting for you to ask. Because he's the one who contacted me last week. He said he wants to meet you, before your mother passes. It felt like my entire childhood had been rewritten in front of me. Every laugh, every photo, every memory, all of it suddenly had shadows I'd never seen before. He wants to meet me? I said, my voice trembling. After all these years? David nodded slowly. He said he couldn't live with it anymore. That the guilt is eating him alive. I couldn't even process it. The man I'd called Uncle James was my real father. The one who used to ruffle my hair and sneak me candy when Mom wasn't looking. The man who told me bedtime stories about knights and monsters, never mentioning that he was one of them. When did he reach out? I asked. Last week, David said. He said your mom told him she doesn't have long, and he wants to see you before it's too late. I told him to stay away. But I knew you'd want to know. I clenched my fist. I don't know what I want anymore. David sighed deeply. I understand. But you deserve the truth even if it hurts. We sat there in silence for a long time, the lake calm and quiet as if the world had stopped just to watch us break. Finally I stood up. Give me his number. David looked at me, hesitation in his eyes. Are you sure? No, I said honestly. But I need to look him in the eye. I need to hear it from him. He pulled a small slip of paper from his pocket and handed it to me. The number was written in neat block letters, the kind of handwriting I'd seen on every birthday card he'd ever given me. I stared at it, my stomach twisting. What do I even say to him? David looked at me, voice steady but full of pain. Ask him why he stayed silent. And then decide if you want to be his son. That night I sat in my car, phone in hand, staring at the number. My thumb hovered over the call button. My heart was pounding. And then I pressed it. The phone rang 3 times before a familiar voice answered. Calm, steady, the same voice that had told me stories as a kid. Hello. For a moment I couldn't speak. My throat felt tight. It's me, I finally said. Ethan. There was silence on the other end. Then a shaky breath. I was hoping you'd call. The sound of his voice made my chest ache. I could almost see him, the way he'd always smiled, the way his eyes had softened when he saw me. Now that I knew the truth, every memory felt like a knife. I know everything, I said flatly. He didn't deny it. I figured you would. Your mother told me she finally confessed. You should have told me, I said, anger rising in my voice. You had every chance. Every single family dinner, every Christmas, and you just stood there pretending? He sighed heavily. You were a child. What was I supposed to do? Rip your world apart just to make mine right? That's not your choice. I snapped. You lied to me my whole life. I didn't lie, he said quietly. I stayed silent. There's a difference. His calmness only made me angrier. No. Silence is a lie when the truth belongs to someone else. He didn't argue. Just a long pause. Then he said, "You sound just like her. You have her fire." I laughed bitterly. "Don't try to make this about love. You betrayed your own sister." His voice cracked. "You think I don't know that? You think I haven't hated myself every day since? It wasn't supposed to happen. We were both lost, grieving our parents, and one night, one mistake became a lifetime of guilt." I clenched my jaw. "You call that a mistake? But I'm living proof of it." There was a soft sound, maybe a sob, maybe just breath. Then he whispered, "You're not a mistake, Ethan. You're the only good thing that came out of a bad decision." My hand trembled as I held the phone. For the first time, I didn't know if I wanted to yell or cry. For a few seconds, neither of us spoke. The silence between us felt heavy, not empty but full of everything we'd never said. "I don't know how to even look at you again," I finally said. "You ruined everything. You broke our family." "I know," he said softly. "And I've paid for it every single day. Your mother hasn't spoken to me in 20 years. David hates me. And you," his voice caught, "you were the one person I couldn't reach without destroying everything." I pressed my hand to my forehead, trying to think, to breathe. "So why now? Why after all this time?" He sighed. "Because she's dying. And she told me she wants to make things right. She said she wants us to meet before she goes." I felt something twist inside me, anger and compassion fighting for space. "You think one conversation can fix this?" "No," he said. "But maybe it can stop the hate from spreading to you." I looked out the window at the dark road ahead. My reflection in the glass looked like someone else, older, colder. "Where are you?" I asked quietly. "I'm still in town," he said. "I never really left. I just kept my distance. Your mother didn't want me near you. But I went to every graduation, every birthday. From a distance, Ethan. You didn't see me, but I saw you grow up." His voice broke on the last words and I felt my throat tighten. I remembered moments, times when I'd thought I'd seen him in a crowd, a car parked too long across the street during my school games. I thought it was coincidence. Maybe it wasn't. "Meet me," I said suddenly. "Tomorrow." "No. At the hospital." He hesitated. "Are you sure you're ready for that?" "I'm not," I admitted. "But I need to be." There was a long silence, then a quiet reply. "I'll be there." I hung up, my heart pounding, the truth still sinking in. Tomorrow I'd face the man who was both my uncle and my father. The night before the meeting, I barely slept. My mind kept replaying every memory like an old film reel. Moments that once felt innocent now carried a different weight. Every smile, every visit, every gift from Uncle James suddenly looked like evidence of something I was too young to see. By morning, my stomach churned with nerves. I drove to the hospital early, hoping the quiet halls would calm me. Mom's condition had worsened overnight. The nurse said she was asleep, but her breathing was shallow, fragile. I sat beside her, holding her cold hand, wondering if she knew what was about to happen. A knock at the door broke the silence. I turned, and there he was. James looked older than I remembered. His once dark hair had turned silver, his face lined with years of regret. But his eyes, those were the same eyes I'd seen in the mirror every day. "Hi, Ethan," he said softly. For a moment I couldn't speak. My throat tightened, my chest heavy with anger and confusion. "You actually came." He nodded. "I had to." He took a hesitant step closer, glancing at Mom. "She doesn't know I'm here yet." I stood, blocking his path. "Then let's keep it that way until I say otherwise." He didn't argue. He just looked at me, not as an uncle, not even as a father, but as a man who'd run out of time to make things right. "I don't want your apology," I said coldly. "I just want to understand why." He swallowed hard. "Because I loved her. Not the way a brother should. It wasn't planned, it wasn't right, but it happened. And when she found out she was pregnant with you, she begged me to stay away. She thought if David raised you, maybe the sin would disappear." I felt my chest tighten. "And you agreed?" He nodded slowly, tears filling his eyes. "Because loving you meant letting you live a lie." For the first time his voice cracked, not with guilt but with heartbreak. And in that moment, I realized he wasn't the monster I'd imagined. Just a man destroyed by one unforgivable truth. I stood there, frozen, watching him break. The man who once seemed unshakable now looked small, fragile, even. His tears came quietly, but they carried years of weight. "You don't get to cry," I said, my voice trembling with rage I didn't know I still had. "You had choices. Both of you did. And I had none." He didn't look up. "You're right," he whispered. "And I'd give anything to change that." I clenched my jaw, trying to hold myself together. "Do you know what it's like to grow up feeling like something was always missing? To feel like you didn't belong even when no one said it out loud?" He nodded slowly. "I do. Because I watched you from afar, living the life I was supposed to have. Every birthday I missed, every photo I wasn't in, I punished myself by seeing what I'd lost." His words should have comforted me, but instead they made it worse. "That doesn't make it better, James. It just makes you a coward who watched his own son grow up like a stranger." He looked up then, and the pain in his eyes made me falter. "I didn't stay away because I didn't love you," he said softly. "I stayed away because I did. I thought I was protecting you from my mistakes, from the shame." I turned away, staring at my mother's frail body. "And what about her? Did you protect her too? Or just hide behind her guilt?" His voice cracked. "She asked me to disappear, Ethan. And I did. But I never stopped hoping that someday, you'd find out on your own terms." I laughed bitterly. "My own terms? You mean after my entire life was built on lies?" He took a hesitant step closer. "If I could go back, I'd tell you the truth the moment you could understand it." I looked at him, my eyes burning. "Well, it's too late for that. She's dying, and I'm not sure what's left to save." He lowered his head. "Then maybe you can save yourself, by forgiving her, even if you never forgive me." Forgiveness. The word lingered in the air like smoke. I wanted to reject it, to throw it back at him. But deep down, something in me cracked. I looked at my mother, her frail hand still in mine, and suddenly all the anger felt heavy. Too heavy to keep carrying. "I don't know if I can forgive either of you," I said quietly. "But I'm tired of hating people I love." James nodded slowly, his shoulders trembling. "That's more mercy than I deserve." The door creaked and a nurse peeked in. "She's waking up," she whispered. I turned quickly. Mom's eyes fluttered open, weak but aware. When she saw James, her breath hitched. "You came," she said faintly. He stepped closer, guilt written all over his face. "You shouldn't be talking right now," he said softly. But she smiled weakly. "It's okay. Maybe it's time we stop pretending." I swallowed hard, watching them. Two people who had carried a secret for decades, now stripped bare before the truth. She reached for my hand, then for his. "You both deserved honesty," she whispered. "But I was too scared to lose you." Her voice shook. "I thought if I kept the truth buried we could still have a family. But lies don't die quietly. They wait and they grow." Tears streamed down James's face. "You didn't have to face this alone." Mom smiled faintly. "I wasn't alone. I had him." She looked at me with eyes full of love and regret. "He raised you better than I ever could have, Ethan. You had a father's heart in your life, even if it wasn't his blood." I felt tears blur my vision. "Why didn't you just tell me, Mom?" She sighed, her breath shallow. "Because I wanted you to remember love, not sin." The room went still. The machines beeped softly and her hand went limp in mine. "Mom?" I whispered, my voice breaking. But she was gone. James broke down beside me, covering his face with shaking hands. And for the first time I didn't stop him. Because I finally realized, none of us had truly won. The sound of the heart monitor flattening felt like the air had been sucked out of the room. I just sat there, staring at her still face, the woman who had built my whole world on love and lies. James was sobbing quietly beside her bed, his body shaking. I couldn't move. Couldn't think. The weight of everything hit me all at once. The truth, the pain, the years we'd lost. "She's really gone?" I whispered. James nodded slowly, wiping his eyes with trembling hands. "She was brave to tell you," he said softly. "She carried that secret for too long." I turned to him, anger and sorrow swirling together. "You think that makes it right? You think dying with the truth is some kind of redemption?" He looked at me, eyes red, voice breaking. "No, Ethan. But it's all we had left." I stood up, pacing the small hospital room. The machines beeped faintly as nurses came in, then left again, giving us space. I felt trapped, between love and betrayal, between the past and the future. James stood too, trying to steady his voice. "She wanted peace for you. That's why she told you before it was too late." "Peace?" I laughed bitterly. "You destroyed every version of peace I ever had. I don't even know who I am anymore." He stepped closer, carefully, like I might break. "You're still you, Ethan. You always were. The truth doesn't erase that." I shook my head. "Maybe not. But it changes everything about who I thought I was." He didn't argue. He just looked at me, tired, broken, and full of regret. When they came to take her body away, I reached out and held her hand one last time. It felt cold, light, like she was already somewhere else. "Goodbye, Mom," I whispered. "I hope you finally found the peace you couldn't find here." As the door closed behind her, the silence that followed wasn't angry anymore. It was hollow, the kind that comes after a storm when you're too drained to cry. James stood beside me quietly, and for the first time I didn't tell him to leave. We stood in that quiet room for what felt like forever. Two men connected by love, blood, and one woman's final confession. The air was heavy, but something inside me had shifted. The anger was still there, yes, but underneath it was something else. Understanding. When we finally stepped outside, the sun was setting. The sky burned in shades of orange and red, the kind of light Mom used to love watching from the porch. For a moment, neither of us spoke. The world just moved around us, like it didn't care what had been broken inside. James finally broke the silence. "I know you'll never look at me the same," he said quietly. "And I don't expect forgiveness. But I want you to know, I never stopped being proud of you. Every time I saw you from a distance, I thanked God that at least something good came out of what I did wrong." His voice cracked, and for the first time I saw not the man who betrayed my family, but the man who lost everything because of one choice. I took a slow breath. "You can't fix the past, James. None of us can. But maybe we can stop it from defining the rest of our lives." He looked at me, hope flickering faintly in his tired eyes. "What are you saying?" I sighed. "I'm saying I don't hate you anymore. That's all I can give right now." He nodded slowly, tears rolling down his cheeks. "That's more than I ever thought I'd get." We stood side by side, watching the last bit of sun sink below the horizon. The wind carried the faint scent of rain, soft and clean, like the world was starting over. For years I thought truth destroyed families. But now I realized something else. Truth doesn't break what's real. It just burns away the lies until only what's true remains. I turned to James and said quietly, "Let's go home." He hesitated, then followed. Two broken men walking into a future neither of them understood, but at least for the first time without secrets.